Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the brand new album by Bladee called Spider. So over 2022, Nebby's just pretending that Nebby's not going to release anything for the rest of this year. In this year, Blade has just basically released the odd single here and there, but did release a great collab album with Echo 2K called Crest, which was a great album he released this year. However, in terms of a solo project, Blade hasn't released an album or project since last year, 2021's The Fool. The Fool was yet another expansion of this new style that Blade was incorporating in his music. For a good few years of his, start of his career, he was making very sort of depressive emo rap mixed with cloud rap. However, especially in the cases of the album The Fool, this was basically overall just totally avoided and is instead a very cerebral listen with very happy-go-lucky and just very angelic sounding music. And with that particular album, he actually incorporated trance music too, which was very interesting. This album had a lot of my favourite Blade songs that have came out so far, such as Trendy, The Fantastic Ego Baby, and the really fun Hotel Breakfast. The stylistic shift that I've been talking about basically started when I first ever really started on YouTube, which was early 2020, in the sort of mixtape project that Blade released called Exeter. Very minimal in sound, but it was really enjoyable and holistically was definitely the start of something new for Blade. And speaking of starting something new, I actually think this album, Spider, is yet a new stylistic shift and a new overall change for Blade. This is because although Blade has incorporated the same sort of ideas on here that he's used on other previous projects, which is, for example, focusing more on melodic hooks and singing rather than rapping, as well as using more as sort of upper register previous to what he was doing in his earlier releases. Yeah, this is definitely more darker and more experimental than his last few albums too, making it almost like when his past releases were these sort of beautiful cherubs, Spiders ended up becoming this sort of mutated, pushed to the side baby. I mean, this can also be seen in the album cover. I mean, no offense to you, mate. I mean, your physique is on point and everything, but I actually don't fancy those raspberries and widow spider with a galaxy in its abdomen that you're giving to me. I think he's giving it to me. I'm not sure because even though he's handing it to the viewer, he's kind of looking elsewhere. Yeah, it's very strange, much like this album. The single that released prior to this album, called Drain Story, might have been a bit of a sign of what was to come on the album, with its sort of atypical beat choices, the lack of chorus, and the very sort of glitchy production that was used on this song. However, I still found some similarities to the original cloud rap aesthetic, such as its sort of glitchy, manipulated vocal samples, which are, reminded me a lot of something that earlier Friend Zone production would have done. But despite this, Spider is actually, predominantly not focusing on cloud rap. It's actually involving a lot of brand new subgenres that are definitely new to Blade. And although something like the album The Fool, which did involve a new genre for Blade trance music, Spider's actually involving multiple new genres. For example, we've got the futuristic pop punk sort of tunes like I Am Slowly But Surely Losing Hope and Velociraptor, as well as this new sub-genre which has been aptly titled Rage Music, which Playboi Carti and Lil Uzi Vert basically started at the start of this decade on other tunes on this album as well. There's other genres that Blade's used on here which adds to the eclectic mix, but it's actually stuff that he's utilised in previous material. Drill music is definitely a style that's used on this album, but has actually been explored on I think a 2016 or 15 EP released called R.I.P. Blade. So although the likes of that isn't actually new for Blade, the way that it's experimented with is definitely new for him. For example, we've got the Icarus Freestyle song, which is almost like a drill song he might have released about 5 years ago, but the falsetto backing vocals is definitely new and something that you're not going to get on most drill songs. So whilst I've hopefully been clear that Bladee on this album is definitely being eclectic and trying something very new, which of course we've all got to give props to artists when they don't just stick to the guns and make the same sort of styles and continually evolving the music. That's all well and good, but I think what's more important is the actual material of good quality. To that I say SPIDERR is mostly successful. So let's focus on the tracks that I really do enjoy, which, spoiler, is the vast majority really. Let's start with the intro, Understandment, which is a fantastic introduction of a track. Not so much because the track itself is great, but it works as a really good introduction. This is because it's a really energetic tune and really pumps up the listener to look forward to the foreseeable tracks that are about to come on the album. But the lyrical topics I think that Bladee uses on here is kind of not only foreshadowing what's to come, but also makes reference to him trying something new. Let's look at the lyrics such as, your favourite song's getting old, the same story being told, and I don't care very much, just about enough. This is almost like Bladee is saying to the listener that he's aware that if he was to still repeat the same sort of styles that he was going on with previous material, then it would become redundant, and that he doesn't care if there was, for example, any audience backlash if he was to try something different. I mean, not only are the melodies great on Understandment, but White Armour, who's the prevalent producer on this whole album, really knocks it out the park with his take on rage music, and basically gets rid of the one main gripe about this style, which is, even though I like the sort of synth retro and yet sort of futuristic style to it, a lot of rage music I find just uses the same loop over and over again, whereas White Armour not only thinks of a great melody, but progresses it throughout the whole track, which makes the whole listening experience really enjoyable. Another rage type song, but definitely cranked all the way up to 100, is the track Ha Ha, which is definitely, for me at least, the most viscerally startling song on the whole album. It has this really rough punk aesthetic, which I really find would give a lot of the songs off Whole Lot of Red a run for the money. And not only is it sounding crazy, but Bladee definitely is going crazy on this song. People are talking about his repetition of saying I'm crazy, which is all well and good, obviously very entertaining, but his repetition of saying I'm doing great at the end of this song, I think, becomes a bit more even eerier for me. It's almost like he's trying to fool himself and the listeners that he's doing well, but to me the whole song has this sort of manic style to it. It's clear that he's not doing well. Another rockin' tune, which probably is my favourite on the whole album, is the song Velociraptor, which has this really energetic pop-punk style to it, which only the best pop-punk tunes do. Really enthralling. It's got that sort of sound like you're sort of gliding down on a steep hill on a skateboard, something like you might expect on the opening stage of Sonic Adventure 2. It's got that sort of youthful aesthetic to it. Something that I've noticed on the lyrics of this song is how Bladee uses the words venom and saying that he's got venom in him, and saying it's sort of giving him a boost of energy. And I find that really interesting because not only is that kind of a reference to the album name, SPIDERR, Venom, but also I've noticed that there was a single that he released not too long ago called Shiny. It was a collaboration with him and Varg 2. On that song, he actually has lyrics which is him saying that he's got venom in his system through getting bitten by a viper. And I find that really interesting because that song is also kind of really energetic too, so I wonder if there's a kind of link to that. Of course, there's songs on this album which go over more similar styles that Blade's explored, but they're still great nonetheless, such as Dresden ER, which again is a personal favourite of mine. Sort of whimsical style on this song definitely feels like it could be snugly fit into the album 333. However, I've got to give props to not only White Armour's successful attempt to, again, progress in the beat throughout the choruses, which makes it really enjoyable, but Blade's just great ear for coming up with fantastic vocals, but also, especially on this song, backing vocals, I think they really take the song up a notch in quality. And the song Uriel as well is maybe typical for Blade for having a outro song being the sort of really slow meditative exit, but I think it's still a really good song nonetheless. So yeah, so we'll talk about the songs that I'm not so keen on. Okay, well let's touch about the songs which are experimental in nature, but to me aren't as successful as the songs that I've already mentioned. One example I might have to give is the song Nothing featuring Wonder Mountain, and this song sounds like it starts with manipulated steel pans, very Caribbean influenced on here, and then it has beats here, beats there, synths here, synths there. It's just a mess to me, this track. I mean, some songs can be really exciting when it has a load of vocal overlays, manipulation, random samples here and there. You know, it can really add to it, but I'm afraid on here, it just lacks cohesion. And I'm afraid as well, I'm not too impressed with Wonder Mountain's feature on here. I think it's not just really so much him, but the way that his vocals are used on this song, they're so slattered with reverb, echo, and just manipulated in these really warbled ways. It makes it so that it's almost like just auto-tuned syrup. I cannot make out what he's saying at all. And I mean, to be fair, I think he does actually sing in Mongolian, but definitely does have lyrics I can pick out here and there that are in English. But if I didn't look up the song, even after multiple listens, I can't understand what the guy's saying. And I'm not saying it's his accent or anything, but like I say, I think it's just the way the production has tread his vocals on here. It's just not appealing whatsoever, and I'm afraid Blade on here isn't exactly winning us over either. Just not very exciting melodic ideas on this tune, and like I say, I'm afraid overall it's just a bit of a mess, this song. I'm also afraid to say that I was kind of underwhelmed with the Echo 2K feature on here too. The track I'm talking about is called Disaster Prelude, and the synth choice, the sound of it, I'm just not a fan of it. I just find it really unpleasant. It's really hard to describe, but to me it's kind of like tinny and kind of cheap sounding, and just takes away from the song's attempt to be really angelic. It just doesn't incorporate it well for me. And Echo 2K's feature itself, you know, it's fine, but especially about how impressed I was with his really great knack for coming up with lovely sticky melodies that he was coming up with on Crest. Compared to that, it's just kind of underwhelming, just not really standing out, kind of like Echo 2K by the numbers for me. And I've got to talk about the use of samples on this song as well. It samples what sounds like someone on a phone, at least the way that it's been filtered, it sounds like they're on the phone. And again, just it's too distracting. They're like really so high in the mix and high pitched. I just find it annoying, and especially when it's mixed in with Echo 2K doing his choruses. It's almost like they were both in a competition, the person on the phone and Echo 2K, of who can go highest in pitch. Another example I can give you where a song is kind of ruined a bit by its choice of samples is the song She's Always Dancing, where comparatively we've got this song which is, you know, really sweet in terms of its lyrical topics, but at the end for some reason they put in this sample of when Al Pacino blows someone's head off in the film Scarface. And it's like, what? It was the most confused I was in this whole album, never mind about how the other songs were sounding. Just such a weird contrast, and I don't get it. Is it funny? Is it just supposed to be kind of shocking because it's just so different? But I don't get it. Weird choice. And White Armour on here, he fell into the same pothole that I came across when I was listening to a similar sounding song, which was actually the introduction song on the album 333, where instead of just being a simplistic acoustic guitar with Blade singing over it, which I think would have been way better, instead feels this almost need to put in this manipulation, add these random unnecessary textures and synths and weird beats and stuff. It's like, to me, I think it would have been way better if it was just nice and simplistic. A similar sounding song is the second track, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, but that song is actually way more successful because it's far more minimal, and it works in its favour because it drives home the lyrical topics of, you know, it's okay to not be okay, but really drives home this very solemn tone that the whole song has. It reminds me a lot of what Young Lean done on the song Gold off his Stardust project. Again, very minimal, but works in its favour because, again, it kind of added to this somber, kind of bittersweet tone to it. And used in this song and a few other tracks is this sample of what sounds like an old film projector being reeled. And I'm interested in what you guys think of why they added these samples. Do you think it's because it's almost like the song topics are almost like Blade and the audience are kind of watching something that's became to them nostalgic to them, something like happy memories that are long gone? I'm interested. What do you guys think? That's just my interpretation. And I'll be honest, I'm actually going to contradict myself a bit here, because even though I was saying, oh, these songs should be more minimalistic, blah, 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 actually, I think the song Blue Crush Angel, yeah, actually White Armor should have maybe added more to this song. It just slowly plods along this track, and it's just kind of a bit meandering and a bit boring in its repetition, and you know, is that instead of being relaxing. And Blade even sounds a bit bored on this song as well. And what doesn't help is this extremely simple thumping beat. And it's just not, you know, it doesn't change at all really throughout the whole song. It's just constantly banging away. And it's a sort of unique idea to have as a sort of rhythm to a song. But for 3 minutes, it just goes on a bit. So yeah, I mean, there's a few tracks here I'm definitely not head over heels about, but I still think the vast majority are great and even fantastic songs. And because of that, I still think, once again, Blade's on a winner on this album. And we've got to give, of course, extra props for him to, you know, trying something different, trying something new. And once again, makes it so much an enjoyable thing to be a part of this sort of fan base, and looking forward about what he's going to try next, you know. So once again, I recommend this album. I wouldn't say it would be a good way to start with his material, especially to say that, because I feel this is a start of something new. It'd be interesting to see where he takes this style further. Is it just going to be a one-off thing, or is he going to develop more on this sort of experimental tone? And because of that, will he maybe do it better next time? Who knows? But I'm interested. So yeah, overall, I did really enjoy this thing. I'll give it a really good 7 out of 10. And of course, I'm interested to see what you guys think of this album. Did you feel that this was a success, this album, about trying something different, or is this just new style just not really worked for you? Let us know, I'm interested. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves, and I'll hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening.